We are back on Connected Wellness Wednesdays. I'm with my good friend Pete Bombacci from the Genwell Project. We're back, but so is hockey. The Toronto Maple Leafs take on the Montreal Canadiens tonight, and how much fun is that going to be?
That is exciting. I was just looking around. I didn't grab a Leaf jersey, a Leaf hat, a Leaf anything, but it's good to have the game back.
Well, because I know that you've watched All or Nothing, and so you know there's nothing there. Before we get started in anything, what a crazy name for a documentary when you know the connotations to Leaf haters will just bite into it. All or Nothing, and then the goaltender you're expecting to be the stud is caught crying twice on film. I just don't get it. All in, maybe, but not all for nothing. You Toronto Maple Leaf super fan.
I love the series. Sheldon Keefe is going to have to explain to all the young kids out
Yes,
there why the
terrible.
use of
Terrible.
the word, why those F words are so essential to coaching. And I mean that almost sincerely in the sense I think he's going to be called to the carpet by some parents to say, like, hey, come on. Although it wasn't his responsibility for editing that way.
No.
But honestly, Campbell, honestly, it was beautiful. And we had heard during the season that he did struggle, that he was crying because he thought he let his team down during a couple games. So that actually wasn't completely a surprise to me. However, just seeing it close up, I just thought the whole show, and I hope every team does it because I'd actually like to see how the other teams do it as
Yeah,
well.
but I think unfortunately, this day and age, when you're under a microscope, what the Toronto Maple Leafs are, I've obviously been in those dressing rooms
Yeah.
and I have watched vulnerability. His vulnerability is fantastic, but not when you're expected to be number 1A or 1B goaltender and people see weakness. Right now, I get it. This is not the Genwell Project and this is not connected. This is a pro hockey team that they get paid millions of dollars. And listen, what's going on with Carey Price is so important, what he's done. And I think what we need to do is we all have to understand they're human. But if the Toronto Maple Leafs go down 0-4 at the start of the season and Jack Campbell gets beaten 2 or 3 times, you're going to see that sympathy turn into let's get a new goaltender. And that's what I don't like that for him personally as a player.
Sorry,
That's,
I got to take issue. I got to take issue with what you're saying,
you can.
and I think it's important for us to hear this, which is what Jack Campbell did is okay, and I understand your perspective as a player.
Yeah.
I understand you want to, but you just called it out. Carey Price is here, and Jack Campbell is here. So
Right.
what happens? Carey Price puts it off, puts it off, puts it off, and I have no idea. So I'm speaking out of my behind, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. But
Yeah.
this I'm speaking, from personal experience, from not in that scenario, but we can keep not talking about it. We can keep hiding it, tucking it away, putting it in here, putting it in that pocket, and then what happens is that you end up having to take a long break because you haven't got the support and coaching along the way. And one thing I will say, just one last thing, Carey, is oftentimes, whenever I've gone to seek counseling or coach along my life, I've always got there. And the times I used to go were when I was in crisis, and I go, "Oh, I need help now because I'm struggling." And the coach would always say to me, "Well, why do you wait until you're struggling before you actually seek support?" And I think the beautiful thing about Jack Campbell is, hey, the team certainly sees he cares, he gives a shit, and I think that's important.
Yeah.
But number two is that's why they have coaches, that's why they have psychological
Yep.
people and all the different
100%. Can't agree with you more.
don't wait till he's in the crisis. That's awesome that he was able to be that vulnerable. But I totally understand your perspective.
Well, I'm going to give you a little bit more deeper perspective
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I
yeah,
appreciate we can agree to disagree. I completely disagree with you, and that's
yeah,
okay
yeah,
because we both deal with mental health issues. We know that we've gone through it. But if you're not a psych, if you don't understand the psyche of the person, here's the situation. There's a time and place for everything, and his vulnerability should not have been on a film that says all or nothing. If he's not well, like Carey Price has done, it's kept it very private. We didn't even know what it was. He went and he's seeking help. If Jack Campbell is struggling, we shouldn't have seen that first. Like Jack, they do have psychological coaches, and this paints a brush, whether you and I want to believe it or don't want to believe it, there are people that are going to use that against Jack Campbell as they go farther down in the season. And if he struggles, that's the issue. And if he goes in to get help like Carey Price, I'm the first one for all that. I just think he was thrown. I'm not blaming Jack Campbell. Please don't get this wrong.
You're blaming the editing of the
I
movie
blame
or
the
the show.
editing. Absolutely. And I think
That's an
saying,
interesting.
yeah, that's what I'm not blaming Jack. Listen,
Okay, that's good. That's good. That's good.
I cry every night. I cried yesterday. It was my mother's third year that I lost the most beautiful woman outside of my wife, of course, and my sister combined, all that sort of stuff. I cried. I'll be the first to tell you. Cried like a baby. I was watching a movie, and this lady was having to put. It was actually a designated survivor, where she had to put her mother. The mother wanted assisted suicide, and I cried like a little Bambi, which is okay. I felt good.
It's a beautiful thing, and I think we should talk about this some night. Which
You
is,
will.
I don't cry at emotional movies. I cry at sport movies. You know, when Ted Lasso struggles, I struggle.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
when Rudy gets into the game for his 1 or 3 sets of downs and makes a sack, which there's debate whether that actually happened or not. The reality is, I get emotional. But if I watch a love story and I'm supposed to get emotional, I'm like, honey, what are you crying
Honestly.
for? Like,
Yeah.
what's the deal?
No,
So
I
it's
weep.
so funny.
I weep. I weep. Well, one for the Gipper. All right,
Yeah.
let's get into obviously the discussion. Good luck tonight for the Toronto Maple Leafs against
Thank
the
you.
Montreal Canadiens. I think both. It's going to be an exciting game. We've already seen a couple of great games last night. Leonard, of course, he has come very vocal on what mental health is all about. I thought he was solid last night. Certainly not his fault. It ended up being a 4-3 win for him. They were up 3-0, and some of those goals were unpreventable. I thought he really commanded the stage for the Vegas Golden Knight last night. I think the Seattle Kraken, it was an absolutely down 3-0. Obviously, the Seattle Kraken stormed back, beat Lerner, tied the game up, and then obviously lost it 4-3. A very good start, and I think it's going to be. Did you see the opening scene? Did you
No.
see? Oh my God! You've got to Google the actual before the face-off. They did this show on the ice. It is one of the greatest. And what's funny about that is that they had a squid or the octopus, whatever that is, what the Kraken is, and they had him going on the ice, and moving and all that sort of stuff. And then the Knight comes in and toasts him with a fire gun or something like that. And I said, free calamari for everybody. Let's talk about some.
Can you steal the octopus from Detroit? I thought Detroit had the
I
octopus.
think it's a squid. I'm not sure what a kraken
Oh,
is.
it's a squid, not an
Yeah.
octopus.
Well, isn't that what calamari is?
Is squid? Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's octopus.
I don't
I
know.
don't. That's skip that one.
Listen, there's
Next.
some great topics we're going to talk about right now. I want to get right into it because we're going to be watching it in a few minutes.
Yep.
Toronto Maple Leafs up against the Montreal Canadiens. That in itself is fantastic. Hockey's back. I'm alive. I love my life. Obviously, this has been brought to you with the great people at Fired Up Network. I'm fired up because I want to discuss the fact that what I don't understand, I was by my good buddy Wayne Cowley today. I did the Bottom Line show, and we had a very good conversation. And we found out that his restaurant can only have 50% of people sitting in his restaurant. Yet we're allowing 20,000 crazy Leaf fans, oh, I'm sure there's some Montreal Canadian fans, to be in a rink yelling and screaming and drinking and spitting, getting drunk, and things could all get south. Why? I'd love to hear it from you, Pete. Why are we penalizing the restaurants who have a vested interest to stay alive, and yet for a big sporting event, we're allowed to do that?
Do you know what? I like to think I have an opinion and an educated opinion on most, but even I saw Troy Taylor, who's at Restaurants Canada, tweet something out today, and he just said, enough with the insanity here. There is no further justification. If we can put 18,000 people into the ACC, there is no reason we can't be putting people into a restaurant. And I'll be honest with you, I played hockey last night. Afterwards, we went to a bar. I'm telling you, they were at 80% capacity inside that bar last night. And I think the bars have gotten to the point where some of them may be, going around. I don't know if they're finding a loophole or they're just ignoring it, because I think it is, and I was certainly one who wanted to stand up for, hey, we need to do this the right way and we need to
Yeah.
be safe. But even I'm
Listen,
questioning these things now.
get on a flight. Like we're
Yeah.
confined into a little space, and we social distance getting onto the flight, and then we're put in like sardine cans. I just don't understand that. Thank you, Robert, for the clarification, Robert Wine. Listen, what a great interview we had with Robert
I
Wine
know, it
last
was
night.
amazing.
The vulnerability, the art, how articulate he is, obviously with his challenges, is fantastic. And here he is. The word calamari comes from the Italians for squid.
I should have known that,
Ah,
you know.
you're Italian.
And I love calamari, but
When's the
squid,
moon? It's a sky like a big piece of pie. That's amore.
that's annoying.
All right, so obviously we don't have all the answers of why governments are doing what they're doing. The United States of America have opened us up. We will be able to travel to the United States, which is a good thing for people that need to do that. I myself will not be doing that anytime too soon, even though I'm double vaxxed. I still want to wait to see how the reason why I'm not at the Leafs game tonight, I want to see after Thanksgiving, and I want to see after a couple of games with large crowds. We still have outbreaks. You're going to talk about that in a few seconds. That even though everybody is vaccinated, I still want to see that in 3 weeks, with all of these big events happening, that there isn't another outbreak and it's people that are double vaxxed for any reason. I just want to make sure we're at the place that we should be. Your thoughts on that, Pete?
Well, that's exactly what happened last year. We got through Thanksgiving and then things started to slowly take off again. So I think it's, again, a little bit of a 2-3 week window here to make sure that, nothing takes off. I've said this a few times in the last 24, 48 hours. I don't know if it's a false sense of security, but I am starting to feel like, all right, maybe we're past this thing and maybe we're in the home stretch here. And now it's just, we got to get some more people vaccinated. We got to, do some testing and things like that. But at the end of the day, I feel like we're going in the right direction. And it really would be disheartening if all of a sudden we flared up after 2-3 weeks after Thanksgiving and had to go through this all over again.
Well, I think that's going to be the measuring stick, and I
Yeah.
look forward to it. And I hope we're right that we do see light at the end of the tunnel. I can only say that Aaron Kuzak, one of our good friends, out of the blue, had to be raced to the hospital, and they had to put a pacemaker in him. So I'm sending hellos to you. But I had a chance to talk to him. They had 1,500 cases yesterday in Melbourne. 1,500. Yeah, they've gone south. I think he said a couple of days ago it was 1,800, and that's only in Victoria. New South Wales has kind of got it under. They've just opened up. Their country is almost like Alberta. It'd be like Toronto right now, how we've got or Ontario got it under control, but Alberta is still crash and burning. That's the same thing that's happening in Australia.
But they locked it all down and then they didn't push the vaccines, correct?
Right. But I said to a good friend of mine, Alan Stitt, today, wow, Australia is way behind in vaccination. And he said, no, it's not true. Because I heard the 20 to 40 mark was where they're sitting. It's not. They are at, I think he could pull up a stat, and it's like 72% in New South Wales, and it was like 61% for Vic. So it's showing you that we know that vaccination's working.
Mm-hmm,
Just
mm-hmm.
take it, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
Let's move on. You know what? We never cried about it when we were too young to know, when we got the measles vaccination and all the other vaccinations that we've been jabbed with. And I think I'm pretty healthy for an old 62-year-old guy.
Okay, can I throw something at you? Because I got a real question.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
now they're saying that the next phase is 5 to 12. You and I can choose on our own to put a vaccine that hasn't been fully tested. Although, the majority of researchers and the majority of doctors are saying it's safe to do. We know about deaths. We know about other things that have happened. But now the choice is you have to put it into your 5-year-old, your 7-year-old, your 9-year-old without the level of testing and research that would typically have gone into, well, you look at polio, it's had 50 years of research and testing and tweaking and everything, or even the flu on an annual basis. How do you come to grips with getting a kid between 5 and 12 vaccinated?
You know, that is a very good question, and I don't think I'm qualified to answer it. I don't have children. I don't have to make that very, very difficult decision. Um, we're in a situation where when you look at all it's really about the numbers right now. And of course, you're right. We don't know how this is going to affect somebody maybe 5 years from today. We may find out it does nothing. It may affect a certain person another way. When you're dealing with that young of an age, we don't know. The issue is that we don't know if that young boy or girl gets COVID, what it does to them. So I feel, and I know that you're in that situation, Pete, of having to make the educated decision, because it isn't you, it's your son. I'm not suggesting that you're going through this, but I know that you have a child.
Uh,
I would not wish that upon anybody. Whatever your decision is, you and your heart and with your wife are going to know if it's the right thing for you and for him. Man, it's got to be awfully difficult.
and I asked the question sincerely because I want to hear other perspectives on it, because I'm not convinced one way or the other.
Yeah,
And I feel like what's going to happen here is that the parents who are 110% in, which I don't think will be the majority. I think it will be, I don't know, 20-30% of parents who will say, look, I want my kid vaccinated for all many different reasons. But I
yeah,
think the majority of Canadians are going to wait, and it's going to be a slow rollout to young people because they want to see what happens. What happens when you start injecting, this into the arms of young people? And I know that's not what we're talking about tonight, but
yeah. No, it's
if anybody
important.
has an opinion, I really would like to hear what other people's thoughts are.
And it's a very good point, and I think we're going to have to deal with it as it goes forward here. But what I don't understand is that the hesitancy still with with people that are of our age or a little bit younger making a decision not to, and still expecting to be able to go to that old folks home and put
Mhm.
people at risk. That's the only thing. And I think the children one is going to be difficult. And here is Paul coming in. I have a young grandchild, and I say yes, do it. Now, thank you for that, Paul, sharing that with us. I think one of the things is that you as a parent have to do your due diligence. As you just said, you're maybe not as educated on it as you would like to be, and so you need, and that's okay for you to make that decision and wait for maybe somebody that you can trust and believe in, and hopefully that comes around and the right decision is made. I think myself personally, if we can get all the adults over the age of 18 um, um, vaccinated, I think the stress on our youth will be somewhat taken care of, in my opinion. Again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not an epidemiologist, if you don't already know
Epidemiologist,
that.
yeah.
But I do believe that if we control ourselves as adults, we may be able to take care of this thing. I
Hmm.
hope.
Yeah, but I think the struggle there is, I think those that are who haven't got. Although I did talk to somebody today who said they think that the passport, they have a set of parents who weren't fully vaccinated, and I was like, seriously, they're not vaccinated, and they said it's just been a timing thing, and I was like, timing? God, you've run out of time about 6 months ago to get double vaxxed. But they said it was the passport that motivated them, because if you can't go into restaurants and you can't go into stores and you can't go here, there, and everywhere without, or to a
Yeah.
game, that's motivated some people that were hesitant to finally go get it done. So, hopefully we'll see some more people get to it. We'll get to even higher numbers that we are. We'll
Yep.
reduce the chance of transmission. And it'd be great if we got through this, to your point, Gooch, and we could actually do it without having to, inject our young. But obviously, I don't think we're going to get there. So
Yep.
I'll take Rosie's perspective into consideration for sure. Because
I would I would put your mind to ease to actually talk to a epidemiologist. That I will, if you don't, if I do have a number for you to call, he's a fantastic doctor. He can help just educate you a little bit. The only reason why I took it so quickly is because he explained it to me. I understood it, but I have no idea what it means when it comes to youth. So I
Yeah.
can't comment on that. Paul, we want to do a big shout out to you. Friday, I know you're going to be on Gooch Live. Looking forward to it. And our roundtable, don't miss it. We are going to be digging deep into the Toronto Maple Leafs victory, or it could be all or nothing. And we'll be able to talk about that
Hey,
Friday and Saturday.
I think
Well,
Rosie probably thinks Jack Campbell was a little bit a little bit soft there. What do
I
you
don't
think?
know. That would be great. Paul, you're listening. Tell us what your thoughts on Jack Campbell. I don't think he was. I
It
think
wasn't
maybe,
Jack, it was the
yeah,
editing.
I
And
think the editing.
thank you for that clarification because I
Well, I
thought
think
you
they
were
missed
saying
it.
Jack was
No, listen, I think they missed it. Okay, listen,
yeah.
there's a couple other topics that I know you want to dig deep into. High school shutdown. What does that do for you as a parent right now? It's got to be concerning.
Well, this all ties back to, the bigger conversation of opening up. And you've got, 18,000 people going to a Leaf game. You got restaurants and bars shut down. You got high schools. Silverthorne Collegiate here in Toronto was closed, and now everybody's gone back to homeschooling. I heard a lady this morning, a mother, said it's so disheartening that after feeling like we were going in the right direction, getting back to a sense of normalcy, that now she's got her 2 or 3 kids at home homeschooling. And I know from one kid last year that homeschooling while you're trying to do work and live
Yeah.
your life, it is no fun. And so, I can only imagine going back into it is no fun. We got borders opening up. We've got cases going up in long-term care. The thing I find crazy, Gooch, is that there seems to be no consistency in anything, from the numbers and how it's working in certain areas to the research to the prognostications as to what's going to happen. It's all over the place. So I don't know who's making the decisions because I wouldn't want to be that person.
No, absolutely. No, but there's no rule book, but we've had enough time. It's 19 months, guys. Seriously. We can put a man on the moon. Hey, by the way, thank God William Shatner came back
Yeah,
down. Beam me up, Scotty. No sign of intelligent life here. He's gone where no man's gone at his age.
yeah,
I think it's really important to understand this, that when we look at the situation that we're in right at this particular moment, I said it many months ago, probably 14 months ago when this all took place. We could put together a bubbled setup and have a NHL Stanley Cup final, but we couldn't take all the top knowledgeable doctors, epidemiologists, and bring them into a situation where for the next 2 months you are going to be in New York, or you're going to be in London, or you're going to be in Frankfurt or Chicago, wherever that may be. Bring them all, the minds in, lock them down, because we could do it with hockey, lock them down and come up with the answers. I think what's happened is we've got way too many fractions. We got this guy going this way, this guy going that way. We've got presidents doing what they're doing. We've got leaders saying things. We got the guy in Alberta doing what he's doing. Like it's a car crash. And I think unless you have especially with this particular situation, call me stupid, but I think we need top down management. And we're not getting that. I think we have to have a direction. Here's what we're up against. Have a plan. Here's how we're going to do it. I think they're just throwing darts at a dartboard, in my opinion, the way it looks.
well, I think again now I think you're bringing politics into this, which is, and I had somebody at the skate last night. We were talking in the dressing room beforehand, and he just said, "Look, a lot of the decisions that have been made, especially well on both sides of the border, have really been driven by I support him, so I'm going to say no, or I support him, and therefore I'm going to be pro-mask." And it's kind of silly, but unfortunately, this happened at a time when we are the most disconnected
Yep.
and fragmented society in history, and this is what happens when you can't bring people together and you can't rally them around a message with all the media channels, with all the fake news and different ways in which people are consuming information. It's and I have my own experience in the last few weeks on a lake association, and seeing the misinformation that people are out there and using through social media. You're like, oh my god, this is ridiculous. It's happening at the local smallest community level you can imagine, all the
Yep.
way up to the presidency, and you realize we have some really big divides in this world,
Oh,
and we need to find a way. And again, Gooch, I hate to say it, but I think a human connection movement, an opportunity to bring people together and help them understand why is it important that you know your neighbor? Why is it? And you said it, and I love what you said, and you always say this. So when I disagreed with you earlier about Jack Campbell, what was your response? Your response was, "That's okay. You know, we can have a we're adults. We
Yeah,
can
because
have
I'm right.
yeah."
Because look at, hang on, Paul verifies it. I love Jack. I think they didn't have to show it the way they did. I cry all the time. Thanks, Paul. Thanks for.
And that's
No,
and that's a beautiful thing too, because hey, now you've got support, I got support. We have to get back to I was in a round table talking about the environment in Toronto, and somebody said, well, how do we get more people to go green, you know, recycling, reuse, recycle, whatever the third one is, and I apologize.
that's okay.
But somebody said, look, we can't advertise to people. The people who do recycling already do it. You don't need to advertise more. You got the other extreme who will never do it because they just don't consider it their responsibility to care for the future. It's the people in the middle. It's the
Yeah,
people in the middle that if you actually go up to them and you say, "Hey, Carrie, man, I don't know about you, but I'm really passionate about the future of my child's life or the earth and green and gases and everything." And then you might ask me a few questions, and we might have a great dialogue. And hopefully, by the end of it, if I'm sound enough in my thinking, you'll say, yeah, you know what? Or you'll go home to Tony and you'll say, Bombach was talking and he had some really good points. I think we should recycle more, or we should reuse, or we should green bin, whatever. I'm forgetting the word.
compost.
Compost. That's what it takes. It takes people knowing somebody to have a dialogue that actually helps us get over the challenges. But tweeting at people on social media and telling them that they're idiots,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
that they must be paid off by somebody, or they must be impacted because they're not thinking straight. How's that going to work out for you?
No,
Not very
doesn't.
well.
No. And listen, I'll tell you what, we are green here. My wife has to keep reminding me, Gooch, it goes in the green bin. Gooch, it goes in the compost. Gooch, like she's got me. I can't even remember what goes in where, but she's got me. I do it. I believe in it. I think we have to leave a better place for our little buddies all around the world,
Yeah.
boys and girls. Hey, listen, let's talk a little bit about other things that have transpired. Of course, the long-term care facilities. We're there. There's a rise again, and what is the cause? Is the cause because people are going back into it as a healthcare provider, not vaccinated? I know they're putting in rules in Quebec. I think there's going to be an upheaval there because a lot of people are not vaccinated. Where do we get the nurses from? We're putting in another huge strain over the next couple of months on our healthcare providers, and Christmas is coming. And all I pray is that we all enjoy a merry Christmas, not for the gifts that are given, but the ability to hug and be able to enjoy the ones we've loved, because it's been way too long not to be able to do that. Pete, I'd love to hear your comment on what's going on in long-term care facilities.
Hey, again, you and I don't know. I just know the numbers are going up, and maybe we're letting our guard down. Maybe we're letting some people that are before it was because people were in multiple homes, and maybe they were bringing it from one home to another home. So let's hope that people are following the protocols that have been put in place, because we can't let our guard down yet. And so, and again, this is why I don't have difficulty with filling. I have a little difficulty with filling the ACC, shoulder to shoulder. I have difficulty when you tell me that the protocols at the airport are really strict until you get on the plane, and then they sit you shoulder to shoulder with other people. And I'm like, something doesn't seem right in all of this. And I know maybe on the airplane there's good circulation, and maybe there is at the ACC, but it just doesn't. Nothing seems to add up these days.
Pete, you can't take your dad or your mom or your little one to a doctor. Well, the little ones you can. The doctor's appointment, you have to sit outside. Yet I can go sit by my father-in-law, at a baseball game. Like there's just somebody's not thinking right. And so I hope we get that under control. The
Yeah.
next one that's kind of interesting is the border reopening. I heard them talking about it. Your thoughts? I know that there are a lot of people that are excited about it, small little businesses along that border, tourism, which we all need. I think it's exciting. Is it too early? Is it not too early? I'm not sure. but is it the right move right now, especially with, they do say the American states are getting it under control. There is a lessening or a small decline in a small decline. There were astronomical numbers in the first place. Your thoughts?
Hey, there's obviously some smart people. I think I'm going to make a leap. There's some smart people behind these decisions. Who am I to question them? And I think, again, and this is the worst thing I'm going to say, which is, everybody needs to take care of themselves.
I agree.
Stay. This sounds terrible, Gooch. Stay away from people that you don't like. Listen to what I'm saying. Stay away from people you don't know. Like, stay distant. Ask the question. Have a dialogue with somebody. Say, hey, are you vaccinated? Like, that is just not what I want to be saying. But I think we have to, and this would be, we need to get the economy going again. We need to start opening up. We need to let businesses have the opportunity. We need to find the ways to do it and do it safely. And so I'm sure, travel and tourism for our country is massive. Those guys down there, they're 10 times our size. So, they send more tourists up here than we do down there. And I'm sure there's a lot of businesses that are really happy to see that border open again.
Yes, and I can't agree with you more. It's a lifeline. Hospitals, mandatory vaccinations. Obviously, people are working. Why I saw a doctor is actually in the United States saying, "Why the heck would my colleague not be vaccinated? They live this world. They see what this disease is doing to people that are laying in bed, and they're educated enough. If you're a nurse, a doctor, you're educated enough to understand the medical process. You and I aren't, but they should." And so, why would they even question the fact that if you're not vaccinated, we don't want you in the hospital? We want to protect the people that are in here. Do you have any issue with that?
Well, hey, again, we're always on the same page 99% of the time. At the end of the day, if you're in a hospital and you're caring for other people and, everybody else is being told that they should have 2 vaccinations, then to me, that should be a no-brainer. I'm sure the hospital's under a lot of pressure with the lack of caregivers right now,
Yes.
nurses, doctors leaving, nurses more so, I think, than doctors leaving by, hordes or coming shortly. So the reality is, what's the big, like, I think you should just take them to the side and just kind of say, like, can we have a serious conversation? Have the epidemiologist from the hospital go and have a sit down conversation and, put in an hour with a group of people and say, what is it that you've got a problem with?
Yep.
And if it's not the facts, then it's politics. It's something else that, and maybe there's a religious region. I know maybe there's a couple other things that it could
Yes.
be. But at the end of the day, if you don't want to get double vaxxed, then I'm sorry, you shouldn't be working in the hospital.
I agree there. Good. Saskatchewan at the brink of their ICU. Not only them, Alberta is just running rampant right at this particular moment. My heart goes out to obviously those two provinces. I know Manitoba's struggling a little bit. Also, it seems like BC has got it kind of under control. Quebec seems. I was just there in Montreal, and it seemed like people were following the rules. Um, how do we? You've got a question here that you sent me earlier. How the hell, pardon my French, does anyone make a decision on this stuff? Like, it is so, we've got so much information, good information, bad information, middle information. You got to try and interpret some of the information. You got Facebook, you got Instagram, you got tweets, you got TikToks, you got all of this stuff being thrown at you. You've got CNN, you've got CBC, you've got CBS, you've got all this massive information coming in. How do you make a decision during the day, Pete?
Well, hey, again, I have to, and I think most of us, there's things you can control and things you can't control. I have to believe that the people that are working on behalf of society, so that's public health, that is the medical officer, chief medical officer, that is the politicians, and yes, the politicians can come down on one side or the other, but at some point, I'm almost questioning my comment, but at some point you have to trust that they're making the best decisions they possibly can with the information that they have, which you and I probably don't see which is the real information.
Right. Yeah.
And also the information that predicts what's going to happen versus what we see today, because what we see today almost doesn't matter,
No.
because you said it earlier, that's probably what happened 2 weeks ago. What are they seeing today that's looking to the future and making decisions there? So you know I think it is a tough job, and we've said it all the way through. I wouldn't want to be a politician right now because I wouldn't want to have to make these decisions.
For God's sakes, I do the Tim Hortons test. You know that you can do the pool, the Tim Hortons pool. It's an app that they have.
Okay.
And I was going through it. You choose 3 players out of this long list. One list you pick one, and then the next list you pick the 2, and then the next list you pick the 3. And Drouin from the Montreal Canadiens was on the list, and I was ready to push the button, and I decided, nope, I'm going to go to Suzuki. And what happened? Drouin just scored 1-0 Montreal over the Toronto Maple Leafs, and Jack Campbell is in net. So we got to get to that. Listen, as we leave, I want to talk to you about something that kind of irked me. I'm dealing with I am the commissioner of a league. I mean, no disrespect to anybody that was involved in this weekend with us, but one of the things that I saw as a commissioner, I had to deal with a couple of things, and one of them was dealing with racial slurs from kids that are 14, 16, and 18. Those are learned. Those are not. You don't inherently come up with saying words that I heard some of these young kids saying. How do we stop that? How do we prevent our youth? And you mentioned, Keith, for example, the F bombs. I was in a rink. I'm not going to say who and what and where, but I witnessed several coaches doing their in between period, and the F bombs were flying out of their mouth like it was an adjective. And the problem I had with that is it's okay if it's you and me. I don't even do that. But when you think about it, these are 14, 16, 18-year-old impressionable young men or young teenagers that are watching the coach go on a rant. How do you expect them not to control themselves if we are not showing them the discipline? I know you have a young child. I love him. I'm going to get on the ice with him. I know he's wearing number 16. He's excited to know that Marner is in the lineup. We'll see what he does tonight. But talk to me about that. How do we control that?
Funny enough, here's my perspective on this, and it comes from a gentleman who's no longer with us. He was my high school football coach, and his name was Neil Wilson. And Mr. Wilson had a military background, and Mr. Wilson never raised his voice above this, and it was always, Bombachi, why don't you go over there? And he struck the fear of God in you because of the way he did it. And he did that for everything. There was never a raised voice. There was never anything. And he would just, he'd do a lot of pointing. Hey, I think it's a good idea that you should do this. Why don't you two go over there? And so there are ways to lead that come without having to yell and scream and use that language. And hey, I use it as well. So let's not, this isn't, they're wrong and we're better, we're right, whatever. But, again, when you're trying to teach kids good habits, good skills, good future, life skills, I think we could do with a little bit less of it. And I think Sheldon Keefe will, I bet you this does, I'm going to suggest to you, this is going to come up somewhere.
Yep.
This is going to come up in an interview. This is going to come up somewhere along the way here. And he will be, I don't want to say taken to task, but he will be challenged on, hey, don't you think that's a little much?
Yep.
But again, to your point, they could have edited it to make him look less, but they also had the choice to bleep it all.
Yeah.
If Amazon wanted to do it, because
we know they're not going to.
But they wanted us talking about it. Look at
yeah,
us.
Exactly. Yep.
So,
hey, but Pete, I want to say to you, I know you very well, or I've been around you a lot. You have decorum. You know when to say it and when not to. When it slips, it's a slip. It's a Freudian slip, but not when it's constant. And every second word is coming out when you're involved with 14 and 16-year-olds. You and I may be in a dressing room, with a bunch of 20s and up, and the word just goes around like, it's a salad. Oh, breaking news.
1-1.
You got it. Do you see it already? Eh?
No, I don't.
I don't know who scored yet. But I think it's important, and we'll leave it at this, that there is a time and place for everything, as we spoke earlier about that. And I think you are a man of your word. I do not believe you would be sitting around with a bunch of 14-year-olds using F bombs. I just don't see that in you, but I know that you would having a couple of beers with the boys.
100%.
Got it. Love it.
Hey, one last thing before we go.
Yes, sir.
Just remember, 33%, if you remember this from at the start of the pandemic, 33% of Canadians watch sports on a daily basis. 77% of Canadians watch sports on a regular basis every week. The fact that the NHL is back is really important right now, because this thing is dragging on, and the opportunity for us to actually engage in something to distract us from some of the ups and downs that we've been facing through this pandemic, whether that's relationship issues, whether that's job losses, financial pressures, kids homeschooling, kid challenges, kid mental health issues. It's really great that sports are back.
Absolutely, 100%.
And I think it's important for us all. If you love a game, if you love the game, then go catch some of your team's game and enjoy it, and scream at the TV, and don't swear, but scream at the TV for a goal and for great plays, because we all need a little distraction in our lives right now.
And I know you're going to do that, going with the Toronto Maple Leafs, Montreal Canadiens. Enval has scored the goal for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
I didn't even think he'd be in the lineup.
At 10 o'clock tonight, the Winnipeg Jets take on the Anaheim Ducks, and I will be screaming at the screen.
I love it. You're engaged, that's for sure.
Pete Pampachi.
See you, Gooch.
See you, buddy. Always a pleasure to have Pete on. I love his perspective. And guys, it's okay for us not to agree all the time. It's always good to have people give you another perspective. You may be wrong. And if you can step up and admit that you're wrong, that's another true blessing that man has been given. Listen, I want to thank Robert Wine for being so engaged. Paul Rosen, look forward to talking to you on Friday as we bring and talk about all of these great games. And we will see how the Toronto Maple Leafs make out with the Montreal Canadiens. But what we'll be doing on Friday, Paul and the boys will be talking about their specific team. Paul, obviously, Chicago Blackhawks, myself, the Winnipeg Jets, and Jordan LaRoche will be talking to you about the New York Rangers. Hey, listen, thank you for joining another Wellness Wednesday, brought to you by the good people at Connected, a mental health initiative, the GenWell Project, and, of course, Fired Up Network. Good night.